streak is alive at McKinney North. Now 10 straight years that the Lady Bulldogs have made the playoffs. Coach Dan Sedgwick is with us now. And Dan, once again, you claimed fourth place out of the district, the final playoff spot in 10-4A, but you were 5 games better than the team right behind you in Pierce. There was never really legitimate worry that you would miss the playoffs and end that streak.
Well, that's true, and it seemed like the lower 4 teams this year were a little weaker than they were last year, but we're very proud to be where we are. Yeah.
You close out the regular season, Dan, with losses to Rockwall and Wiley, the top 2 teams in this district. How do you feel about this team overall going into the playoffs?
Well, we're very young, and the pressure of the bigger games, they've handled it like the first time we played Wiley. They handled it well. They got up for that game. We ended up beating Wiley that first time around. And then the other times, the pressure of the bigger games, especially against McKinney, this year we seem to not handle that pressure well. But we're getting there. And if they can handle the pressure, I think we can play well enough to do okay in the playoffs. I really do. So.
Yeah, you beat Wiley the first time around. You had a close battle with Rockwall the first time through in district play, and then those tooth and nail matchups against McKinney High. How have those battles against other playoff teams from this district prepared you for what's to come? And
see, that's the good thing is we did have those tough games, and we had them at the end of the season. You know, that's kind of the way our schedule lined out. And so I think it did help us prepare, and you know, it still remains to be seen, but having tough games like that's always nice, right at the end of the season there. So,
your junior Taylor McAllister is enjoying another tremendous season for you, hitting .431 with 5 home runs, 18 RBIs. Committed to the University of Texas. Yes. We heard earlier in the season representatives of the Longhorns came out to watch her. It led to Taylor eventually committing to UT. What have you liked the most about Taylor's season?
Well, Taylor's Taylor. She's so aggressive, and she's so she's a leader and really doesn't know it though. She's still kind of growing into that leadership role, and she's more of a leader with what she does on the field. One of the big surprises with her this year has been her base running abilities. She gets off the base, gets a good jump, and has really run the bases well for us this year. And so I'm very proud of that aspect of her game. And then her defense is impeccable. She just makes plays at first base that most other kids aren't going to make. And, you know, and being as tall as she is and all, it helps having that big target over there for my infielders. And my infielders love her over there because she's going to make the catch high, low, sideways. She's going to make the play most of the time. So she's a real stable force on defense also, and knows the game probably better than any of my other players out there. You know, my catcher knows the game real well, and she kind of leads that. The infield in that aspect, and she's always talking and jabbering and telling everybody, hey, this and this is the situation and all. So that's great to have out there also.
Dan, speaking of your catcher, how about Faith Dixon? She actually leads the team in RBIs with 19. What really stands out about Faith, offensively and defensively?
Well, Faith is just a great battler at the plate. She battles and battles and battles, and she probably has more quality at bats than any of the other girls on the team. And she just seems to, when there's a runner in scoring position, I mean, she's just up there ready to hit the ball. She knows that, hey, here comes another one, you know, and she takes very seriously her leadership as far as the RBIs on the team. She takes that very seriously, and you can see that when she's going up to bat. When there's runners in scoring position, I'm like, okay, here we go. I really like Faith, and she's improved tremendously as a catcher this year. Over the summer last year, she worked hard, took some private lessons over the summer, and her catching abilities have really improved. She has, I believe it's 3 pass balls for the entire season. I mean, she lets nothing get by her, nothing. And so she has really helped as far as stabilizing our team also this year in that catching position.
Faith and Taylor, a pair of juniors. You're young overall, like you say. Only so many seniors, 3 on this club. A sophomore in Ashley Alborn has been a pleasant surprise, you say, at left field. She leads your team in hitting at .446. She didn't play last year as a freshman. How did you convince her to come out as a sophomore?
Well, I didn't really convince her. She showed up. And I was very surprised. I said, well, Ashley, have you played before? You know, the typical conversation that you have. And after we started working with her after the volleyball season, it was apparent that she was probably going to be able to help us out. And boy, sure enough, she has got some quick hands at the plate. She really does know how to attack the ball well, and she hits the ball to all fields well, and that's a real jewel to have up there. You can't pitch her inside, outside, and effectively. She can hit to all fields well. Keeps her hands inside the ball real well. Just an excellent hitter.
Yeah, very savvy as a sophomore and in her first year at the varsity level. Had she had any experience in the game beforehand?
She did. She played pretty much every summer before she came to high school. And then in high school, her freshman year, she decided she was just going to play on a couple of summer volleyball teams. And so there was a lot of and off-season volleyball teams during the softball season, and there was a lot of conflict as far as being able to get to everything. And so she decided not to play softball her freshman year. I would have loved to have had her.
No doubt about that.
So,
you have her now.
yes,
Ashley, a sophomore, and another sophomore, and Bailey Florence, who has really stepped forward at second base. Kind of a late addition to your lineup, and you just can't keep her out of that lineup now that you put her in.
Late addition to the batting lineup. She's played second base for us most of the season, and if not all the season actually, and has had her somebody DHing for her, the DH in that position, and about 3 times in a row I put her in, she hits doubles, and I'm like, well, maybe we better give her a shot in the regular batting lineup. And since then, she's just come on real strong. And our other sophomore at shortstop, Allie Lindsay, she's my number 2 hitter, and she's hitting over 300. In fact, the whole top 9 are hitting over 300, and she's just been a real stabilizing force too. And those 2 in the middle of the infield have been a real nice surprise also.
And combine those youngsters with the senior at third base and Raven Gutierrez, signed with Grayson. Raven's been a stable force for you.
She really has, and she's picked her game up on defense also. And she used to be, probably the weakest part of her game was coming up on bunts, but man, she has conquered that this year. There's very few times they can get the bunt down in front of her and be safe. So yeah.
Meanwhile, Dan, in the circle, Celeste Vertolivo continues to impress as a freshman. Moved in from California. She's 12-8 with an ERA of 3. How has she handled this transition, not only from the West Coast, but also from middle school to high school? She's handled it all with seemingly no major issues.
Yeah, and she has played at a pretty high level of ball her whole life. She's played up as far as her club teams and so forth are concerned. She's played at a higher level, and she's even played some 18 and under gold ball, and so she is used to that level of ball. She's still developing. She's still very young. She's still developing, grasp on her game as a whole, her all-around game, and she's come a long ways. And when she's on, she's tough. She's tough when she's on all of her pitches. She is tough to hit. So I'm very excited about Celeste, obviously. And she's a pretty darn good hitter, too. And, I've kept her out of the lineup for a while, just wanting her to focus on her pitching. But we put her back in the lineup, and she's done us a good job.
You hope Celeste saves her best for last as you open the playoffs against the state powerhouse Frisco Wakeland, the undefeated district champion from 9-4A. They went 14-0, did the Wolverines, and it's the second straight year that you match up with Wakeland in the first round. What's the key in this matchup?
Well, the key is to be able to hit Hannah Newcomb. I mean, we're going to have to be able to hit her. And she's a great pitcher. And we have some pretty darn good hitting. And so we're going to need to be able to hit her well. And Celeste is going to have to keep those top 4 or 5 hitters of theirs at bay somehow. And, we're going to have to be on our game 100% defensively and offensively, small ball and otherwise. So it's going to be a tough matchup. But we welcome it, and we're excited about it. Our girls are excited about it, and we've talked about it last Friday after our last game. We talked about it, and they seem to be up and ready and excited about getting to go up against such a great team.
No doubt about it, Dan. We appreciate the time. Best of luck going forward.
Good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Dan Sedgwick, head coach of the North Lady Bulldogs. The streak continues. 10 straight years that North has made the playoffs, and later this week, they hope their season continues. They're ready for the challenge against Wakeland in the first round of the Class 4A softball playoffs.